So the reason why I stopped there is because once again, those last 2 reps, click, click, click on the left knee, which tells me there are sleepy muscles in my hips. So I'm gonna try and work that out. I'm gonna try and warm up the quads, warm up the hamstrings, warm up the glutes, warm all that up with various different exercises. And I might come back and might get back to this weight. All right, let me see how I go. All right, so I've just spent the last 20 minutes trying to warm up the quads. I decided to go kind of one muscle group at a time, just so I know, you know, what's working, what not. If I do everything at once, then it's like I don't even know like what's done the effect. So right now my quads are pumped. Probably too pumped. I feel like I've already exhausted, you know, most of the strength in my legs. So I don't know how this is going to go. I've dropped the weight down 140 kilos. I'm going to do this for one and I'm going to see how it goes. But what did I do for the quads? I did a movement called the Sissy squat. Sounds funny. The name comes from, I think it's the king of Corinth of the ancient world. He was the king and the gods kind of exiled him for doing something wrong. His name was Sisyphus. And his punishment for eternity was carrying a large boulder up a mountain. And that's where he got these really massive quads from, as the tale goes. There it is. So he was named after the Sisyphus because he had humongous legs because he was carrying his boulder because of punishment. So Sissy squats is performed. Maybe I'll show you. I'll show you here. Usually you grab onto something. You guys can see this. So I'll do it here. So basically a Sissy squat is like this, like that. But usually you hold onto something for balance and you come up like that. So this is a Sissy squat. You can see I lost my balance there because I'm having to hold on to it. I usually do it in the squat rack and I just hold on to something. So why did I do that? Because when you're staying so upright in your squat and your knees go far over your toes, the exercise becomes purely a quad dominant exercise, right? Your posterior chain is completely removed, your glutes and your hamstrings have nothing to do with the movement. Your hamstrings and your glutes come into play when you are leaning forward, when you have hip flexion. This exercise is purely knee flexion, so it's all about the quads. The knee clicking that I get on the left, maybe it's hip dominant, maybe it's a hip origin, maybe it's a knee origin. Anyway, I decided to do the Sissy squats first just to see whether it's a knee problem. And right now I feel really good. Like I feel my knees are pumped, quads are pumped. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so Sissy squats, try it out. If you've never tried it out, try it out. However, word of warning that if you have bad knees, now this is kind of ironic. If you have bad knees, like a trouble with your meniscus or your ACL injury or whatever, you really have to regress this exercise to something, you know, lesser knee dominant. I know that sounds funny. So instead of going all the way to the ground, you would have to kind of maybe go to a chair or something like that. Still have knees over toes, but maybe avoid the deep knee bend from the get-go because it's very knee dominant. And he puts the knee at a mechanical disadvantage, I guess. He puts it at a mechanical disadvantage where things could go pop wrong and whatever. Obviously, if you have pain, stop immediately. This is not something that you work through pain. I don't have pain, like I mentioned in the past videos. This click comes and it's almost like, I've already mentioned this, it feels like it's an imbalance between the vastus lateralis and the vastus medialis, which are kind of the 2 big muscles in the quad. One's on the inside of the leg, one's on the outside of the leg. The muscle that's on the outside of the leg, the vastus lateralis, is much more stronger. And so what happens if you continue to do a movement like the squat all the time, and also, you know, the same kind of feet positioning, is that maybe the vastus lateralis gets too strong and starts to put the patella, because you have to remember all of the 4 quads insert into the superpatellar tendon, which is kind of like a union of the 4 quads. And then that kind of inserts into the patella and around the patella and goes down to the proximal tibial tuberosity, you know, it kind of inserts into there. So if you have one quad that's pulling more than the other, it shifts the patella out of its natural groove, and then you get what I feel like a little click or a pop. It's not the stuff that you guys are hearing on camera, kind of like a crunch or a pop. I'm saying the same words again, but it's more like a little knock. It's kind of like a like a loud click, and there's like a disengagement of the quad for a moment, and then I gotta kind of catch it as well. So that's something that I don't want to work through, right? Because, you know, there's structural problems here. The click and the pop is probably just the nitrogen escaping from the joint. Every joint's kind of under a negative pressure, and so as you're kind of going through the motion, some air might escape into different, you know, cavities or whatever the case might be. So that's no problem. That's been quite well investigated, not on me, but like, you know, scientists have, and there's no trouble with that. The trouble becomes when you have what I've experienced now. The quad's kind of like having trouble stabilizing, or when there's pain. So anyway, I've done enough talking. So I'm gonna try and hit 140 for one. I'm gonna really pay attention to how it feels. Hopefully it doesn't click or whatever the case might be. Hopefully it's a quad thing. If it's not, then I might have to kind of go back to the drawing board and maybe do some hamstring work. But anyway, let's see how this feels. So 140. Yeah. Right, so that feels smooth as butter. That really feels good. So there you go. It feels really good. However, I feel damn weak underneath the bar. So let's put 170 on the bar and pray to God that I don't get crushed by it. This might get ugly. This might end up being a posterior freaking dominant squat. I might just end up, you know, using the hamstrings and the quads. Because the hamstrings and the glutes, my quads are spent. So anyway, let me load the bar up and I'll come back and let's see how we go. So the people that know me in my life, like personally, know that one of my favorite things about training is this sort of shit, man. When you hit a problem, you hit an obstacle and you have to work it out. That's by far to me the most addictive thing about training. It's about finding a problem, I'm not looking for a problem, but there's an obstacle and you have to work it out. A lot of people just go, oh, screw it. This is not for me, I'm not genetically made up for this, I have limitations, I have this, I have that, I have bad knee, and just walk away and that's it. I'm stubborn and I really want to work out what's going on. And so for the large part of my lifting career, if you want to call it, I've had, you know, troubles here and there, whatever, injuries, and I've tried to work around it. And so I've got a good amount of data behind me or information behind me where I've kind of just worked things out. I've never gone to a physio, I've never done any of this. I do have a medical background with nursing, and so I do have an intuition about systems in general. And I've done a fair bit of reading in my private time, you know, about training, about all this sort of stuff. So with this sort of stuff, knees clicking, that's not good. I can't load the weight on my knee and expect results. So let's go back and work out what's going on. With these type of things, it's usually an imbalance of muscle tension, of muscle power, strength, whatever the case might be. So it's through experience I've kind of worked out where I need to go, what door I need to go and knock on. So in a case like this, you know, now I know for the next few days, I need to do sissy squats before I do squats, because clearly there's something going on with my quad muscle, with my muscles of the thigh that are not being addressed with the normal squat. And so I'm gonna address it with sissy squats. So tomorrow morning when I wake up, I'm gonna walk in here, instead of just going straight underneath the bar, I'm gonna do sissy squats. Previously I did kind of like light deadlifting, and that kind of served me all right. And then I went away from that because I upped the weight on the deadlift and I wanted to have more time in between to rest. And then that's where this knee clicking started. So it's almost like you know, you need the right amount of ingredients for the dish to taste all right. If you dump too much salt, it's not good. So I need to do sissy squats before I do anything. So today I did 5 sets of 20, and my quads feel like I feel like I'm walking around like Tom Platz, right? Like my quads are really pumped, which is worrying me here. Maybe that's why I'm talking so much, because I really don't want to get underneath the bar, because I really feel like I'm gonna get crushed. But anyway, 170 in the bar. Let's do one set at a time and see what happens. In fact, I'm gonna do one rep at a time and see what happens, because if it ends up being ugly, I'll just call it quits. Anyway, let's see how it goes. That's in the field. All right, 170. Oh, that's all right. So that ended up being quite heavy on the posterior chain, but my knee feels damn smooth, man. Fuck, I feel like I'm gonna pass out. Dizzy. Oh. The thing about lifting heavy weight is that you need to brace. When you brace effectively, you can't breathe. And so when you do sets of 5 like this, really heavy at 80-85% of your 1 rep max, that's a fair bit of time under tension, a fair bit of time without breathing, and then you kind of see the stars afterwards. I'm sure you guys have seen on YouTube, people passing out, especially after deadlifting. Oh man. But anyway, the color's coming back. So yeah, that's basically it. So felt good. First rep felt real smooth. It's something really, really cool about having a pump. When you get a pump, man, you feel like you're bouncing off of pillows at the bottom of the squat. Like my quads right now are so damn pumped, man. No click, no nothing. I don't even think you guys heard anything. Fully warmed up. So much blood through the quad, probably even the knee. You know, synovial fluids gathering. So maybe this is the thing I need to do. Maybe I'm getting old, who knows. But 300 odd days squatting, rarely did I ever get a pump before hitting my top set, you know. I have done things where I've done kind of like 30 rep sets, and then I've gone up to the top. But yeah, maybe moving forward now, I'm gonna use Sissy squats to get a pump in my legs and then go for it. Because my knees feel really good. The only trouble with that is that you're diminishing your quad, so you don't really have the quad power. But anyway, this is what the body wants and this is what the body needs to get. So there you go. I'm gonna take a little bit of a breather, get rid of these stars, and then I'll do another set. Hopefully it's as smooth as this. All right, give me a breather. All right, so I've taken about 5 minutes of rest. Let me get this next set in. Hopefully the knee still has, you know, happy thoughts in it, no clicking. But I feel exhausted, man. Like literally, this is. I plan to do some benching today, and I plan to do maybe some deadlifting. But dude, I'm wasted. These CC squats and then these normal squats are just really taking everything out of me. Actually, for the last 5 days, I haven't done anything other than squats. You know. Anyway, it gets like this. I remember when leading up to the 200 kilo PR, or my personal record, I spent like 2 weeks or something, or only squatting. And then, yeah, I don't know, it's all about recovery points. I've said this to you guys before, it's all about recovery points. If you do every single exercise and you spend 5 hours, the next day you're not going to be recovered at all. If you're squatting every day, it's going to be a downward spiral, right? So, you know, if you only wanted to squat, and that's your only endeavor in life, is just to squat, just build your legs up, build your core up to support the squat, then I reckon you'll be improving the squat a lot quicker, because your recovery points come from the same pool of points, right? Like you don't have, different departments in the body. We're holistic systems. It's all one. So if you smash yourself in the squat, and you go and eat and rest and sleep and whatever, all those points go to recover what you've done with the squat. But if you just spread yourself too thin, then you don't really recover really well. Or you do heaps of exercises, but for each exercise you do a little bit, and then you get in the trouble of maybe you're not improving because you're not doing enough in each of those exercises. So this is where, beginners and amateurs and whatever, they shoot themselves in the foot because they have so much ambition to do really everything and get that body and lose that fat and put that muscle on and whatever, and they end up doing too much. And then they start spinning their wheels in mud because they're doing too much. They're not recovering. And essentially what training is putting damage in, and then when you walk away from the gym, you're recovering and you're putting, you're repairing, and all those systems kick into place. So it's anti-intuitive to think that the less you do, the more it is, kind of thing, to an extent. You know, you still want to do, you know, a certain threshold of exercise in a given thing to improve it. But if you do too much, then you start spinning the wheels. And this is where coaching comes into play. This is where experience comes into play. This is where this shit comes into play. You know, like, you know, I am this far away through a book, and the first entry, I'll show you actually. The first entry, 2015, December of 2015. I don't know whether you guys can see this. Texas method. I don't even know if you can read it because it's upside down or whatever. So Texas method plan, and you can see I've wrote it on the actual hardcover of the thing. Like, there's nothing beyond that. And then I started doing that. Anyway, actually there was knee clicking there as well. Now I see it. There's knee clicking there as well. Anyway, the point I want to make is that I don't know. It's all about progression. It's all about easing into it and then monitoring your progress. That's definitely a must. You need to keep a journal. You need to track your progression, because if you don't document, you can't monitor. If you can't monitor, you can't see where you're going, basically. So it's a must. Because, you know, through writing stuff down, I've realized when I've gone strength gains, when I haven't, and when I've plateaued. And so the periods where I've gained strength, I'll immediately look back the previous few weeks and see what did I do there? Like, what's caused this effect? If you don't write it down, that, you know, you got no idea what's going on. It's impossible for the mind to remember all this stuff. And also you need to write down as much as possible, because the more you write down, the more it's going to be helpful to you when you go back to it to study it. Anyway, let me get this set and then I'll continue my spiel. Here we go with the stars again. Let me sit down. So if you're somebody that's dealing with knee pain right now, and you don't have previous knee injuries, and you feel like you want to try something yourself and not just go to a physio and give them $100 every time you see them, and also give money to somebody who's book smart. They might have a freaking PhD in physio, but they've never squatted in their life. Got nothing against people with degrees and whatever. I'm one of them. But the people that I tend to listen to the most are the people that have actually done stuff. You know, so listening to fellow athletes, listening to people who've had knee issues and can squat, can deadlift and all that, you know, I feel like there's a lot of value there. By going to a physio you've never seen before, I don't know, there's value there as well, but I guess you guys know what I'm saying. You know, you can try things yourself without pain. Make sure you stay away from pain. This is just my experience, you know. I'm not a doctor or anything, but I've had some experience with knee issues, I guess, you know, judging by this video. You know, try different exercises and see how it affects. You know, test and retest. You know, I guess I tested with 170 times 2 today. Click and click. And I've gone, okay, so that's a shit test. Let me do something and then retest and see how it feels. It felt better. So now you can safely conclude that Sissy squats help the knee click. So moving forward, I'm going to continue to do that because this experiment worked. So anyway, after a little while, you guys will know what feels good, what feels bad. There are certain pains, certain things that happen in the body that you can't work through. You know, I've said it once already. clicking and popping and stuff like that of one kind is fine. But then when the muscle starts to dance around, you feel patella coming out of the groove, that's bad. That's a different type of click. And it's very hard to explain this to somebody who doesn't have training experience. But there's a difference with these things. It's also kind of like when you're training and you feel muscle pain, that's one type of muscle pain. But then there could be another type of pain, like a sharp, stinging, locking pain. That's not the effect that we're chasing with training. So it all comes with experience. But don't get discouraged. If you hurt yourself, don't just go into a bed and rest for 6 months. Try and work through it. I go by a saying that Bruce Lee first said. That's my first exposure to Bruce Lee's quote. He said that running water never goes stale. That resonates with me, man. And I've seen this all around kind of the athletic world. When you get injured, the general school of thought is to go and rest, ice, elevate, compression, deactivate the area, numb the area. Makes no sense, man. Intuitively makes no sense. You want to move as much as possible with the given injury because the life force of our human body is blood. Blood brings nutrients, blood takes away waste. When we put cold packs on it, when we elevate, when we compress, we're removing the blood from the area. And now, initially, I can understand when the injury happens and there's pain and there's swelling and there's, everything's locked in. So for pain relief, I get that. That makes sense to me. But, doing this for 2-3 weeks after the injury makes no sense to me. Because we're basically saying for the next 3 weeks, we're not going to heal at all. You can't heal without blood, man. So I get it on the day. But basically, day 2 post-injury, my thing is trying to move as much as possible, man. Within reason. I made a mistake when I broke some ligaments. Through ligaments in my left ankle back in the day. I made a big mistake because I did exactly what they told me to. And there was a shit ton of atrophy through my calf, it was not good. I should have done basically exercises from the get-go. I should have been more active. I should have started putting pressure on it nice and early, slow, mild pressure. But anyway, this video is becoming freaking PhD report. Anyway, guys, this is what I've dealt with today. Hope it helps in any way. I guess guys, I'll see you tomorrow where I'm going to do some more Sissy squats and squatting. Catch ya.